Yes, I hear you.
Oh, I just heard you briefly. Did you say you can hear me, or is it still not?
I hear you just fine.
Okay, sorry about that. I've had a kind of stressful traveling day. Okay, so I talked to Kat for about an hour
Yeah,
earlier this week,
I did.
and we had an interesting conversation. One of the things that came out in the conversation, though, is that she is kind of convinced that um, transmaxing and transhumanism have a significant overlap,
Let's see.
but she suggested that you don't agree with that view, or that's not sort of a term that you might use to describe transhuman to transmaxing rather. Um,
Let's see. Uh, the thing is that I'm not really comfortable like just going on board with that ideology. I have not really researched it, what it really means, but from what I heard, it's not really something I feel like I should like push from the like my limited reading about it. But I'm not sure exactly what transhumanism even means. But I don't really like relying a lot of technology and becoming dependent on it for our survival. I don't think like it's a good idea, for example, to let's say you replace the heart with some machine and then like in 5 years that becomes hacked and you become killed remotely. That's not a good idea.
sorry, wait, you're cutting out. No, because I didn't catch everything you said because the audio is cutting out. I'm wondering, it says I have good service.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Um, can you hear me clearly, or is it kind of choppy?
I hear you clearly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. This is kind of annoying. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, maybe would you mind repeating just
Yeah.
the last part of what you said? Because
Yeah, let's say for
I only really
example.
got fragments of your response. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say for example you get an artificial heart and you connect it to the internet. And what might then happen is that someone hacks your like artificial heart and kills you because it's digital. So I don't think you want to rely on technology too much. You want to like make sure that even if like technology fails, you can still live on.
Uh, I sorry, I didn't hear. I'd still your audio is cutting out. Maybe you could type what you said because I'm not getting. Let's see. Otherwise, I mean, I can try to move somewhere else. I mean, I think, yeah, I'll have pretty good Wi-Fi tomorrow, I'd imagine. But yeah.
I do hear you anyway without issue. So I'm not sure what the problem is. Do you hear me now?
Oh, is this?
No, I didn't hear you either. So someone of us had a bad internet. Do you hear me now?
Oh,
Did
yes, yes. I can hear you. Yeah, wait, this is a lot better.
Yeah, I did have on
Keep
a
talking.
disconnect. If my
Uh,
we could try some more before giving up.
oh yeah, okay, I can hear you. For a second, it was really good. I can hear everything you're saying.
Yeah, just try
Uh,
having the mic closer then.
Now it's a little bit choppy again.
Okay.
Still, I'm not hearing you now.
Yeah, I wasn't talking. Like, I'm talking now. I was just waiting for you to say something.
Oh, yes, yes, okay. This is good. That's good, good connection, I think. Um, okay, I don't know if you're talking now because I can't hear you.
I'm
But
not
I assume when
talking.
you're okay, okay, yes, when your circle lights up, it's good. Okay, sorry for about that. So, what is this? The artificial heart? I don't think I got. Is that sort of on transhumanism?
Yeah.
Skepticism about transhumanism, or?
Yeah, that's just one example of how it can go wrong. There's also like many examples of it, like even in video games. For examples of server system redux is like a good case against transhumanism. If you have like played that game or even like watch a video about it, you can see how badly it can go when you go too far that route.
Yeah, I mean, well, I should say the audio is still cutting out a little bit, so I'm not sure I got all of that. But it seems like if transhumanism is just, it depends, I guess, on how we define it, right? But if it's just using technology to somehow advance or extend human life, then it might not necessarily involve, I mean, it could be using a bicycle on some level as a form of transhumanism to the
Yeah,
extent that it, like,
but that's not what people mean by it. It's typical stuff like
right,
merging
yeah.
with like technology, uploading your consciousness and stuff like that. Or like the Elon Musk idea with Neuralink, which is total insanity, by the way. Like if you like just look into it, it's really really bad.
Yeah, yeah. But so, I mean, to the extent that the transmaxing is kind of using um, hormones and it's using medical technology
Yeah,
to,
but the hormones are natural human hormones. You work just with your normal biology, and while it is true that if you stop the hormones, you will become like masculine again if you are MTF. It's not like you will die or anything. You're not super dependent on it. You can survive without it. You might just affect your appearance. And you,
yeah, okay, you kind of, I feel like you cut out whenever, at all the good, best moments. Okay, I think I caught some of that. Yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to know more though about like why you wanted to start. Well, I guess I mean you put together the manifesto, right?
yeah, if you're asking about my motivation, it's kind of complicated, and I like cannot give you like an easy answer, but of course I want to like help people build this community to change the world for the better. Like I was like interested in politics for a really long time, but I wasn't really able to change anything. But at least now I am able to have an impact, and I'm glad for that at least. But and also I do think the trans community had problems and still have to some extent, so I wanted to make something better. I don't hear you saying anything right now.
I'm not. I didn't. So I got that you are glad to have an impact. I heard that, and that maybe you were involved in politics for a while, but that this is, it's kind of, I sort of get like half of your sentence and then it cuts
Yeah,
out.
this is a way for me to have an impact.
Now I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, stop talking, but
I wonder if there's a way. Would it be easier if? Well, I don't know if that would work. I was thinking we could send voice messages, but I don't know if that's a feature on Discord.
uh, no, it's better maybe if we can do like a part 2 maybe later, but was there like anything else you want to ask about that you want to like have your answer right now?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think one thing that interests me is who do you think are do you think that the only people who would benefit from transmaxing are people who already experience dysphoria, or is
No.
there a possibility that someone who
No,
does
I
not
don't
experience?
think you need dysphoria to benefit from transitioning.
Yeah,
I think it might be that
but
most
so
people with
yeah.
dysphoria don't benefit from it though. It is like hard to tell because we don't really have the studies on that.
And what do you think is the sort of the profile of, if there is a general profile of someone who might benefit, if it's not dysphoria? Because I think the sense I got from Kat is that many people, in her opinion, people who don't have dysphoria but do pursue transition for sort of transmax reasons will eventually find out they have dysphoria. But it sounds like you might not be in that position.
I mean, we don't really have many people here who didn't have dysphoria, so we don't really have like much to go on. But like, if you live a really bad life as a male, let's say for example you're homeless, like really low social status, really bad life, like then you don't really have much to lose by transitioning. Like if let's say, or you have like a job but you don't have any girlfriend, you don't have like no social life. Like if you and your job is really bad, like in these cases, what do you have to lose by like gambling on a transition?
Yeah, I mean, so it's basically like a last resort, it sounds like, to some people, where if you've tried other things and you're still not able to maybe get a girlfriend or, you know, build a community or otherwise integrate yourself into society, this might
Yeah,
be an option.
yeah. The issue is that it's kind of time limited too, because for the HOT to be effective, you need to start early. But then you don't really have time to try everything first. You need to like you make a decision. Are you going to like keep trying to fix your life as a male, or are you going to instead try transitioning? Because once you have like failed totally and completely as a male, you probably will not be able to pass. So that's maybe an issue with that idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure I caught the end of that, but is it that if you don't transition by a certain age, it becomes more difficult to pass? Is that the idea?
Yeah, and if you then like try everything first, it will be too late then to pass. That's the issue.
Yeah, because I get,
Yeah, you cut out.
I mean, what, if you don't pass, then I guess you kind of don't, would you say like the transition sort of doesn't really provide the benefits that it otherwise would?
Yeah, it can even be detrimental. You don't get as nice as a body, so you might not like your own appearance as much, and you will have a harder time dating, and you will have a harder time socially. So you will lose out a lot of benefits by not doing an early transition. It's harder to justify later on.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that when I sort of found the Transmaxxing Manifesto and talked to my editor about wanting to write about sort of the philosophy behind it and stuff, he didn't think it was. He sort of thought that it was. He didn't think that it was something that people actually do. But it seems from talking to you and Kat and some people in the forum that there are people who have actually transitioned for transmaxxing. Do you know anyone who's transitioned who's actually like said who's sort of forthright about the fact that they might not have experienced dysphoria beforehand or something along
Yeah,
those lines?
I'm not going to mention anyone, but there are
Oh yeah,
like,
not by name. I'm just curious about the
yeah, there
general
are.
phenomenon.
I have come across it in this server. It's not that common. Most people who show up here have like dysphoria, and they are.
Sorry, you said?
Yeah, most people who show up here had the dysphoria. So they are like looking here because they don't want to bullshit up other spaces, because like in here, so in this server we have like people who know a lot about HRT and how to effectively transition. We don't really care too much about like the mainstream ideology about it. So people like it for that reason mostly, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that stood out to me. I mean, there's a bunch of things stuck in the manifesto, but one of them was that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It seems that the manifesto sort of advises pursuing, not necessarily pursuing medical transition through institutional channels, like not necessarily. I mean, maybe you would eventually get diagnosed with gender dysphoria, but potentially procuring hormones through other channels and not necessarily trusting therapists.
Yeah, I'm
It
not.
seems like now there's this whole. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm not like saying that you shouldn't like go to a doctor. It kind of
Yeah, yeah.
depends on the if you have like a good endocrinologist, and you like what your doctor does, and you like get the hormone therapy that works for you, then of course you can do that. But wha- what I discovered was that a lot of people, when they try to go the official channel, they need to either wait for years, and even if they get it, they might not get the hormone therapy that is like best for them. Like a lot of doctors don't want to do monotherapy. They instead want to prescribe a lower dosage of oral estradiol and antiandrogens, which is at least long term not the best option. You want to eventually switch to probably injections, with and only do injection, not taking antiandrogens, because that's the safest and most effective method. But a lot of doctors haven't adopted that yet, and this is a big problem. So even if you find someone official, it might not be a good doctor. But I don't really know how good the official channels are, because I don't really have too many people talking about it. So it just depends on if you find someone good, it might be the best way. But if you cannot get access to that, which might be very difficult, you need to go do it. There are like some sites that sell HOT without prescription. That might be an option for you. Or if you have a prescription, might be able to order it
Yeah,
online that way.
yeah, that makes sense. Because I guess they're sort of. I mean, is the concern that if you get too low a dose of um, of estrogen, that the changes won't. I'm not sure I entirely heard what you said, but I think
Yeah,
if you're not prescribed to correct dose, yeah.
yeah, the issue is
Well,
not necessarily in terms of feminization, because like even if you start on a low dose, you can just switch later to a high dose, and if you then have been on anti-androgens, they will not be negative in terms of feminization long term. The issue is with regard to your health, because anti-androgens are unhealthy for your body. So you don't want to be for too long low on both sex hormones. It's about health reason mostly, rather than like getting the most changes. I'm not like convinced that you will get more feminization from monotherapy, especially not if you like start on it. It might even be counterproductive, to be honest. I don't hear you.
yeah, yeah.
Never hear you.
Um, yeah, I also wanted to ask, I mean, there's this, in the manifesto talks about how some men have become obsolete because there's this transition from manual labor to automated labor,
Yeah.
the virtual work done in virtual container. Can you sort of is connected to transmaxxing?
I didn't hear all your question, but you can try to answer anyway. Yeah, there is this societal problem that a lot of males are kind of obsolete, that they are not really needed for society anymore. And this was actually kind of my original idea, that we can maybe find some other way that if they then transition to female, they can feel like they become desired by the male society again. I'm not sure if
Wait,
that
can you
is...
repeat that last sentence? Because it just cut
Yeah,
out. You just cut out.
yeah, that was one of the ideas, that you can have people transition to female instead of being like totally obsolete as males. This was like the original motivation, maybe at least part of it. But I'm not sure if that is like the right path to solve that issue. It's just one idea I had.
So just to make sure I got it, I'm cutting out for this class of men, for this subsection of men that no longer might have a place in society. Transition could be a good option. Transition to female can be a good option. Or is it just for their sort of psychological and psychological well-being, or is there also a social benefit that you see potentially connected to this?
Yeah, this is complicated. You do want to like, I think most people want to live a life where they feel like they have a place in society. Like you have a social network, you have a close relationships, like a girlfriend. You have like a job where you feel like you do some meaningful work. And today a lot of people don't really have that. A lot of people might live on welfare. They might not have any partner at all, might have only a few friends, and might not really have anything going for them. And I think these people might be interested in transitioning to live a better life as a female. I don't hear you at all.
Sorry, did you say something?
What I said was that a lot of people, males mostly, don't really have like a meaningful life. They don't have a good job that is meaningful. They don't have like social connections that are valuable. They might not have any friends at all. And for these people, transitioning might allow them to live a greater life where they have some like meaning, connections, and it's not just about like having sex. I don't think that's the most important thing about transitioning.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is it seems like um, there's clearly this problem where a class of men in our society is disenfranchised and sort of unable to, find meaningful work or meaningful relationships. And I guess it seems like the transmaxing solution is quite different from like what someone like Andrew Tate might propose to
Yeah,
those
but
guys, which is just
the thing
yes.
with Andrew Tate is that his advice can actually work for some males, I think, but the thing is what he advises is that you just outcompete other males, so then they end up having to transmax instead of you. That's pretty much it. Like you're not like reducing the problem for society, just like changing it around. So maybe like some males become more successful by exploiting other males, which is also what Andrew Tate is kind of doing. Like he has this subscription bullshit where people pay him for bullshit advice on his server. And so I see that a lot.
Okay, I'm not catching this, and this is quite interesting. I'm just the audio is cutting out too much.
Yeah,
Would you be
as
able to type the answer or something? I can't. I'm getting
yeah,
like the beginning of all the sentences, basically.
yeah. What I said was that Andrew Tate, his advice can work for some males, but then it will become at the expense of other males. And what he's doing is that he himself is kind of exploiting other males by he's charging to like get access to his Discord server and stuff like that. So he is like monetizing desperate males and making money off them. He's not really helping males as a whole, just maybe some of them.
Okay, so what I got is that Andrew Tate, his advice can help some males, but he's monetizing the advice that he's monetizing his whole platform. So he's making them pay to participate in this. I think there was something else in there that I didn't hear.
Yeah, and the thing is also that even if some people are helped by it, it comes at the expense of others. Like for example, trading is a great example of that. It's just a
Yeah,
zero sum
I'm still
game.
not getting it. Sorry, I think I don't know. Audio's cutting out. Okay. Let's see. So, what was the process of putting together the manifesto? Uh, I mean, did you? Because there's a lot of sort of personal testimonies from people who have transitioned. Did you collect this information, or did you just sort of assemble
Yeah,
pre-existing information that you found?
it was not just all pre-existing. I did collect like testimonials and then I wrote stuff myself, and the scientific stuff was pretty much only written by me. I don't think anyone else really did contributed to that. So when it comes to like the hard science stuff, I did pretty much all of that. But when it comes to testimonials, I had to include it because I like cannot fake testimonials. Like I need to like take something that might at least be genuine. So I couldn't write that. I didn't hear you again.
Okay, I think I got most of that. I want, sorry, I know these questions are very out of order. I'm just sort of scrolling through the manifesto and looking at things that I marked. There's a distinction in the manifesto between direct and indirect gender dysphoria. And it's interesting because indirect gender dysphoria is I mean, the examples that are given are, you know, military conscription, not being able to find partners, and then maybe it's like and it's interesting. I mean, it just sort of seems interesting to categorize those things as indirect gender dysphoria, because I guess it suggests that the issues are not necessarily with the fact of, for example, the fact of military conscription itself, but just a person's relationship to certain aspects of society. I don't know if that formulation makes sense, but
I think I get what you mean, and I can see why people take issue with it, because you could argue that conscription should not even be a thing. It might not even be militarily efficient anymore to do so. But I do think that rooted also that some aspect of like gender roles are kind of biological of origin, so and hard to change. It's not just like evolution by natural selection. It's also the societies have to compete against each other, and then they have to like implement policies to make them competitive, or they will like be overtaken. So you will have certain rules emerge naturally, and sure, you might say that this is like society's fault, but it might be not be something you can escape from, really. So you might view that as gender dysphoria indirectly, even though it's kind of caused by society. But it kind of depends on what issue it. Like I never had to like do military service, for example.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's no, I think it's an interesting concept. I mean, it does make sense in many ways. I sort of wonder, because there's a couple of mentions in the manifesto of females transitioning to male. Um, but I don't know if there's an analogy of transmaxxing phenomenon in them. What is your take on? Is there ever a situation where it's like sort of, other than dysphoria, like advantageous maybe for a female to transition to male, in a similar way to male transition to female, for exact reasons?
Personally, I will be fine with just banning FTM transition altogether. Not necessarily because there are no one who will benefit from it. I don't think it should be like allowed for societal reasons mostly. Like there are some studies indicating that like if the MTF transition does better, but the main reason for I like would ban it if I could was for the good of society as a whole, and not to like protect people from their own stupidity. It's not about that, really. I don't hear you.
I
No, you do.
didn't really catch most of that response, unfortunately. Like I get 75% of your sentence, but then crucial words in the sentences are like.
Yeah, what I said was that I will probably ban FDM transition if I could for the benefit of society, because I think it does more harm than good for society as a whole, and I believe that it's more important than the individual.
Wait, did you say you would ban it or
Yeah, I will ban it if I could.
ban females transitioning to male?
Yeah.